Now is the time. A time you'll look back on. A time you adopt as inspiration. You will recollect this time. This moment, right now. Motivate yourself towards success. Overcome. Take over. The time is now.
Hello. We're late. Well, I'm late because broadband issues. So apologies, and it'll start, and my video will be behind everything else. But take no notice. We will try and put a show together. Lads, how are you?
All good. Can I just before we start, can I just say, I just want to mention this comment. Geordie Toon for life. Yes, it was Daz, but if you are going to have a dig, can you at least spell meter right? That's the wrong one. Do you know what I mean? I know we have our moments, lad, but Jesus Christ, spell check, lad. Spell check.
Great to see you all, lads. It's been a while since the five of us have been on.
Yes.
Should we introduce ourselves again to each other? No, we'll carry on. We'll
save it for April.
We'll save it for then.
Yep.
Right. Let us get into it. Well, so the purpose of this show tonight was twofold: to catch up on any news that's going on the Newcastle circle, and also to talk about the European run-in. So, whose phone is on?
It's not mine. It's definitely not mine. Is that you, Chris?
Well, the first one wasn't mine, but that's our Summer's phone. It's ringing for some reason. But yeah, the first one wasn't me. I don't know.
No, no hassle. I'm only messing. Right. So, let's get into it. First of all, who wasn't? Was myself and Pete on the review show? Were you happy enough with the result, lads? 2 wins from 2.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know what, Daz? Like, it was just brilliant. Like, I was out for Gold Cup day for Cheltenham, and then I missed the majority of the first half, which was disappointing. And then I was in the pub for the second half. And yeah, there's so many things I loved about that game. Like, I saw the Isaac goal back, unbelievable. Like, the technique was just brilliant. I saw, the little bit of shithousery from Kieran Trippier, which we absolutely love to see. Seen that. Thought Elliot Anderson did great when he come on. Loads and loads of positives. And do you know what? Again, and do you know what it felt like? And I don't know. Pete obviously was there, wasn't he? But I don't know. I don't know what you guys thought, but for me, it kind of felt like one of those moments that we'll look back on at the end of the season and go, that was key to us finishing where we finished. Like, we battling on till the very end, and then, we'd had hard luck, especially with that Elliot Anderson goal, which everybody's now coming out and saying it should never have been ruled off. But yeah, to wrap up the 3 points with a minute and a half, 2 minutes to go was sweet. And now, we're looking back on 2 games that we said we should win and that we hoped we'd win, and now we have. And we've got the international break, and we're going into Man United. They've got to come to our place now, and yeah, it's just all positive, isn't it? Really, really positive. So yeah, I was absolutely delighted, Daz, with the win.
Nice. Richie.
Yeah, pretty much echo what Chris has just said. It was a fantastic result on Friday night. It was it seemed that we've had that mistake again, and unfortunately it's getting punished. Unfortunately, don't get us wrong. It was a good finish from Dennis. Still had a lot to do after Botman gave it away, and you've got to give him credit for that. It was hell of a finish. We had someone back on the line. Pope's pretty much in front of him, the same as Botman, and he still managed to get it in with a lovely chip. But I think what it showed is that Newcastle have got that character and resilience now that they're not afraid to go behind against a team and come back. And I think obviously the biggest talking point we've all got is, apart from how fantastic Newcastle played, was Anderson's goal, incorrectly being ruled offside. And as Gary Neville said in the aftermath when he was rounded up, he says it's just great that we don't have the result didn't hinge on that, and then Newcastle, losing 2 points like we have, we've lost like we did against Palace at home this season, not to VAR stuff, going up and down and stuff like that. So yeah, it's great that you've got the international break on the back of 6 points out of 6. It looks positive going into the Man United game next weekend at St James's, and things look as though they're going against Man United going to that game. Not like it was for the cup final. Everything was going positive for them, and we had a few little slips. Our format being great, so it's roles reversed for back on our turf next week.
Cool, Richie. And I know Pete, myself, and you talked about it a lot on the review show. But Martin, we'll give you your chance as well to speak about the game.
Yeah, it was good. To be fair, I didn't have the commentary on because I had the clan round for St Patrick's, so obviously it was just kind of in the background. So kind of hopping in and out of the bar. It was when I kind of got back into it and actually focused on the screen, we were at 1-1. So second half was good. I think obviously if you had Dan Burn on the line and not Trippier, probably that goal doesn't go in. Trippier's probably about 2 foot too short. But yeah, look, first time we've come back from being a goal down all season, so I think that showed the character. I think it was, they dug deep. I think it'd be harsh to kind of criticise Botman. Really, he's not really put a foot wrong a lot this season, 1 or 2 little bits, but it'd be hard to criticise. Look, poor judgment, didn't really look around him, but that's one of those things. But I think to come back showed good character. I thought Anderson was unlucky. Look, we know it was a goal, but it is what it is. But I think the fact we went on then, got the penalty. Isaac took it home. He's starting to look the real deal for me. Good to see him play a full 90 minutes. So yeah, it was good. I think the only thing that really topped St Patrick's and that match was Pete's voice note. So I'm just looking forward to the remaining kind of 10 games and seeing what else Pete delivers on voice notes at any away matches. So it should be good. But yeah, it was good. It was good. Good, and it was nice to get up on Saturday morning and not have to worry about the game. And just really sit back and enjoy, kind of, especially for us here, a long weekend. We're not worrying about other scores or anything else, and the results kind of fell our way as well with Spurs not dropping points. So, yeah, still to play for. That's all in our hands, I think.
All in our hands, and we're going to get into that. And the reason why I kind of took you on a merry dance there, Ron, because I wanted to get you to mention Isaac's name 3 times. Because what happens anymore when we mention Isaac's name 3 times? If we stop the comments for 1 sec.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm saying yeah, but I haven't done it. There you go.
Yeah. You all remember the how. Welcome to the Isaac, the world premiere. That's the Isaac.
Very good.
Something different.
Pete, can I just ask Pete a quick question? Pete, what was it like live seeing Isaac scoring that goal with the technique he used? Now, I've seen Isaac score at Anfield right in front of us, and he went mad when he scored. Like, I loved his little like penguin dance when he ran off. But what was it like seeing that goal live? Like, was it as good as it looked on the telly?
Yeah, it was. I've got to say his whole performance was amazing. It's the most complete performance I've seen from a striker for a very, very long time. I'll probably go back as far as Loic Remy as a complete striker that can do everything, and Isak can probably do it better. But yeah, brilliant. Honestly, it was almost like a 2-second delay because we were the opposite end of the pitch. We weren't sure if it crossed the line, so we were half like holding on to each other, half waiting for the celebration before we just went mental. And look, I already said on the review, I realised yesterday, looking at my keys, I broke them. I broke the key. Like, so my key is like being. Bear in mind, the car's, Daz, you know, my car's not that long new. I've just got it like a couple of weeks ago, and the keys like snapped because whoever got the keys 7 rows down has obviously stood on them. Yeah, luckily I've got a spare, so I've had to switch that one over. But it was just mental. Honestly, it was the best away end I've been in before.
Pete, those keys are probably still under warranty, so you're going to be okay. Maybe not.
Probably not, and they'll probably cost an arm and a leg to get them replaced. But who cares? Because we love Isak and he did the business.
Exactly. Right, let's get down to business and let's get down to what we're actually here for. I've stalled enough. I think my brother was caught up a bit, so good. Right. This is it, lads. This is what I eat there. Put something in our chat on the show the other day, and we thought this. Yes, I have got the bleach on order, David. Yeah, ready to go. But about looking at the run-in. So let's look this together then at the weekend and have a look. So I know it can be hard to see now, especially if you're looking from a phone. But we'll talk through it, and anyone listening on back on Spotify or iTunes, you'll hear us talking about it. But let's ignore Arsenal and Man City. They're going to run away with first or second, whatever way they land. So let's look from third to 7th. So you'll see here games played at the top. Man United 26, Spurs 28, us 26, Liverpool 26, and Brighton 25. The points total is next in after that, and they're in the order of the position we all are in today. I've also highlighted in kind of that bluey kind of grey colour as where teams have to play each other. And also where I put in kind of the yellowy golden colour where they have to play one of the top two. So let's look at ourselves first and what our run-in looks like. So next up for us is Man United at home, West Ham away, Brentford away, Villa away, Spurs at home, Everton away, Southampton at home, the game that we're all going to, Arsenal at home, Leeds away, Leicester at home, Brighton. It hasn't been allocated a date yet, but I just stuck it in here for now. And we know the last game of the season is going to be Chelsea away. So, what do you think, lads, of our run in first, and then comparing it to the others? Who would like to take first shot at this? Go on, Richie.
Me? All right, okay. Well, I think we've already touched on the next game in Man United at home. I think it's the perfect time to be faced, and they've got that much shit going on at the moment. And we also know that Casemiro is going to be missing as well, which is going to be huge for them in the next 3 league games. because they aren't the same team without him. We all know that, and we saw how good he was in that build up to the Carabao Cup final. How good he was in the final as well. They're just not the same team. You put McTominay in for him, or you have Sabitzer, and then you've got Fred in there. They're not the same caliber of player as Casemiro. Full stop. So it's the perfect time to be able to see. We know that Rashford also pulled out the England squad. So I don't know if anyone heard any word on. Is that just like a slight knock? They want to keep him prepared for the Newcastle game, or whether it's anything a bit more serious as well. Which that would be huge for us. Obviously, if he's out long term. Then you go into it, like if I'm reading it right, obviously the screen's that small for us over here, but it looks like we've got 3 away games on the spin there: West Ham, Brentford, and Villa. So it's you look at West Ham; they've got a lot of, they've still got European competition, which is, probably could be one thing that saves Moyes and saves potentially their season, because we all know that the bottom 9 of the Premier League is quite tight, so they should still have enough to get out of that, full stop. And then obviously do well in the the European Conference League and save their season and make it a little bit respectable at least. So you sort of think you should be able to get something at West Ham. We should have beat them up here, right? In my opinion, we had the 1/2 chance really, and it was through an error really that they got their goal. Do you know what I mean? So it's. Then you go to Brentford, and obviously we won down there last year, but obviously they were down at 10 men for 80 minutes of the game. So we know that'll probably be a tough game. I still think it's one that if we look at when we played them back up at Newcastle, we played them off the park, probably one of our best overall games this season. We were absolutely just on fire that game. There was a couple of defensive mistakes from Brentford, but at the end of the mistakes have to be punished. In that game, we did punish them, and it was a fantastic performance all around. And then you go to Villa, who are a bit of a under Emery, they've turned things around a bit, a little bit more of a Premier League side than that they have been in recent years. So don't get me wrong, that'll be a tough game as well. But it's one there, obviously, another game where we absolutely played them off the park when they were at St James's. So if we can return to that sort of form, and should be a fantastic game. And then you go into. I can't quite see what the next one is. My eyesight isn't that great for the home game there above Everton. Is that
Spurs?
Spurs, obviously, there's a lot going on there as well. It's the same with the. I can't say that small, man. For Christ's sake, man, Daz, if you put Tottenham in...
Look, I'll zoom it up here. There we go.
The thing is, we know with Spurs is that... they're going to probably through a more horrendous time than what Man United are. Recently, their form is just absolutely abysmal, and a lot's going to depend on what happens with Conte. Obviously, there's a lot of rumours going around. Is he going to be replaced because the dressing room is completely lost under him? But at the same time, they don't want to make a rash decision in case they bring someone in and it goes more Pete Tong than what it already is. But at the I think they're going on since a really bad season, but at the end of the day, they're still in 4th at the minute, and they've still got a lot to play for. So it's a difficult game, but to be fair, I fancy our chances. I think I would probably say our best overall performance of the season was Spurs down at the Spurs stadium. So there's nothing to say we can't reciprocate that at Newcastle and play them off the park as well, because if we play like we did that day, nobody would be able to beat us in the Premier League, in my opinion. And then you go to that result where they go to Everton, which you should look at the 3 points. We battered them last season down there, and then obviously we got distracted by the guy who's cable tied himself to the post, and then obviously all the extended stoppage time when, and then Iwobi got a late goal. Was it like 9th minute just stoppage time, wasn't it? So it's you should be looking to get 3 points down Everton. And then obviously the game that we're all looking forward to at the end of April, the Southampton game at home, where hopefully they'll because it's the game's going to be fully loaded that week, and they should turn on the style against Southampton as well. Put all of the final nails in their coffin to see if they can get them relegated from the Premier League. And then you go into Arsenal straight after that at home, and I think this is probably going to be a game where you really look at, obviously depending on the form going with it, but you've got to look at. I think the main thing on this game is how much have Arsenal learned from their visit last season, because last season they were so out of depth at Newcastle, they didn't know what hit them. But obviously they've used a lot of experiences from last year. Obviously, I don't know if anybody else watched the All or Nothing Arsenal from last year and stuff like that, and obviously followed the season. So there's a lot of learning curves that they've actually, picked up on this season that they haven't been falling on the laurels like they had last time. They've really, really focused on what they've got ahead of them. So that's going to be a really interesting, potentially really tough tie. But if they can't handle St James's again, then obviously it's there for the take. And you know that if you look at that, Leeds, Leicester, 2 very winnable games there as well. Again, won both of those games last season, 1-0 away at Leeds, and then obviously the fantastic game. And obviously, I know me and Pete were both at the Leicester game as well when we won 2-1, and Chris was there as well. It was a fantastic game. One of the best finishes to a game all of last season. Probably one of the best finishes of any game I've been at St James's Park. Just the euphoria around St James's Park. It was just second to none. And obviously Brighton, depending on when that fixture is, you go on what their current form is now. And we haven't had a fantastic record against Brighton since we've been in the Premier League. Yes, we won last year, but they've had the pretty much decent results against us in the Premier League. So depending on how their form is for when that game rearranged, it could be another tricky one. And I think the one good thing about Chelsea is the fixture is obviously there's still talk. Obviously, I know we haven't included them in this show because realistically, they potentially won't be thereabouts for the European places. But what you've got to take into consideration, they've got to play quite a lot of the teams around us as well, so they could help take points off them. And even if they were in touching distance, we could be out of sight by the time we play them last game of the season. So that fixture for Chelsea could be completely irrelevant. But it's probably one of the harder fixtures if you look along. If it was to come down to the 5 of us all being in Champions League players, we've potentially, depending on how Chelsea's form is, got one of the harder games on the final game of the season. So let's just hope that by the time we get down to the last game of the season, it's already sorted and we don't have to potentially rely on that fixture.
That's a good point, Richie. Yeah, we definitely on paper we have the away at Chelsea. The last game of the season is a tough one. I'm going to go to Chris next. Chris, you get to pick. Richie, we've given Richie Newcastle, so you get to pick which club you want to focus on and their fixtures.
Okay. do you know what? I've just mentioned in the private chat there, and maybe we can come to that at the end. As I've just done a quick tally of what I believe each team is going to get. So I haven't worked out where that would leave teams finishing, but I've just done a quick tally of how many points I think each team will get. But what I will do is I will focus on Liverpool. Now it's funny because I look at Liverpool's next 3 fixtures, which, as you can see, is Man City away, Chelsea away, Arsenal at home, and on paper that looks, pretty difficult. Now, it's funny because I've been speaking to a couple of Red lads today, and they're feeling quite buoyant over it. Like, they're not too concerned, and I can kind of see that because if you look back at the Liverpool of old, Liverpool always tend to pick, to do well when they play against the top teams. Yet when they play, teams that they're expected to beat, that's where they drop points. So I might look at it at a different angle. But certainly Man City away, I'd be very disappointed if they won that game. Chelsea away, who knows? Because we know Chelsea have got a fantastic team. We know that the penny will drop sooner or later, whether that's Graham Potter or whether they bring in someone new in the summer, who knows? But it's only a matter of time before Chelsea click, and it wouldn't. The way Liverpool are playing at the moment, they're so feast or famine. One minute they look really good and like they're back, and then the next minute they look awful. So that Chelsea game is particularly difficult to predict. I can't see them getting more than a point at home to Arsenal, because I think Arsenal are now, they can see the light at the end of the tunnel. So I firmly expect Arsenal to give them a tough game, even though it's at Anfield. The key part for me, looking at our fixtures as well, is I'm looking at the Leeds away, Forest at home, and West Ham away, because most Liverpool fans would look at those 3 fixtures and go, great, we'll get 7-9 points there, and it really wouldn't surprise me if they struggled a bit. Leeds away is going to be a difficult tie. Forest again, you never quite know what you're going to get with Forest. And West Ham away, West Ham are going to be scrapping for their lives. You could really argue that this season could be different than other seasons because the relegation is so wide open. The battle. You're talking the bottom 8 teams down. So it's a difficult one to call when you're playing against these teams who are basically fighting for their lives. It's not just going to be a walk in the park, or I'll just turn up and get 3 points. Not like it was, 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago, where you could kind of go, well, they're going to win that game, they're going to win that game. So it's a difficult one to call. Spurs at home after that little run of 3 easy or seemingly easy games for Liverpool. Who knows? Will Conte still be there? Will Conte, have left, and will they have a new manager bounce, whether that be Pochettino or whoever else they decide to draft in? Again, could be difficult. Tottenham might still be up there. Tottenham could be floundering at that point. So again, I mean, if I had to say, I'd probably fancy Liverpool, if I'm honest. Brentford at home. You've got Brentford at home, Leicester away, Villa at home, Fulham at home. So they've got and then Southampton away at the end. They've got a very nice finish to the season. But I really, really do think once those 3 difficult games are out the way, so your Man City away, your Chelsea away, and your Arsenal at home, I think the key for Liverpool, or the key for us looking at top 4, is going to be how they get on against Leeds away, Forest at home, and West Ham away. Because I think if Liverpool struggle in the first 3, which are the difficult games, I think they could bottle those 3. I really, really do. I don't think, like I say in the past, you'd look at them 3 and go, oh yeah, they'll win those games, no problem. I think they might struggle. I think Leeds away, Forest at home, and West Ham away are 3 particularly difficult fixtures.
Chris, are you meaning that because of you hope that you look at Chelsea, Arsenal, Leeds, and think, Man City, Chelsea, and Arsenal, and think if they don't get anything there, it puts more pressure on them going into that 3.
Yeah. Absolutely, Rich. Absolutely. I suppose you could look at it both ways. Really, you're right. If they pick up minimum points in the first 3 difficult games, all the pressure goes on those 3 games. Or it could be where they get into this, false realization, and they think, oh, we've picked up 6 points out of 9 there, where we weren't expecting them against the bigger sides, and then it's these teams like Leeds, Forest, and West Ham where they slip up. We saw it the other week against Bournemouth. They go and beat Man United 7-0 and then go and lose to Bournemouth. So that Man United game was pointless. You may as well have not won, because everybody expected them to beat Bournemouth. So really, they didn't gain anything. So yeah, it's an interesting one for Liverpool. And as I say, I've done my points prediction. We can come to that at the end if you like. And you boys as well have a little points prediction. But yeah, that's how I see Liverpool as.
Cool. No, and I do agree with you there, Chris, on Liverpool. And I think what they said as well on Sky recently is that they usually perform well against the bigger teams, let's say, but it's struggling against the teams that you expect them to defeat is where they're getting motivated for those games. So yeah, it will be interesting how it plays out. Martin, we'll go to you next. You have your pick. Who are you going for?
Yeah, I'll take a look at Spurs.
Where is he?
Yeah, I think, do you know what? They're a funny team at the minute. I think Conte's rant was weird for me. It was kind of like, I don't think he wants to be sacked, but I think he's kind of doing things that are putting him in a window where he's going to be.
Mark, he
does. Yeah, listen, he's obviously got a massive.
He's got a huge release clause, a termination clause. He
obviously doesn't spend it on flights to Italy because he was on the Ryanair out of London the other day. Which, if anybody's seen it on Twitter, yeah, it's a weird one. I think, look, Daniel Levy, from as an outsider looking in, is I just find it really hard to find out why Spurs can't and haven't won anything, because when you look at some of the managers they've had, it's just really weird. Like, they've had Pochettino, they've had Mourinho, they've had Conte. Like, there's something horribly, horribly wrong with that club in that nobody can seem to get a tune out of them. So I don't know if it's players, is it the chairman and the leadership above calling too many shots? I don't know. I mean, it's not like any of those managers are not serial winners. It just baffles me. But I think Spurs are Jekyll and Hyde. I think it wouldn't surprise me at all to see Conte sacked. I don't think with, what have they got, 10, 11 games left, I don't think they bring anybody in the back end of this season. I think they'll get to the summer and do their thing. So I'd fully expect them to do, if Conte does go, to do what they did when Mourinho went, which is your man Mason stepped in. I don't know his first name. Ryan Mason, yeah. So he stepped in. And
do you think Conte will go, Mart?
I think he will. I think he will, Chris.
He's already gone.
Yeah,
tonight.
it's been floating around tonight that he's already been sacked, but there's nothing official. But I think he will. I think they'll put Mason in at the helm. I don't think that does Spurs any favors. I think that plays into the rest of us. I don't think, people talking about the new manager bounce. I don't think you get that with him.
Yeah.
I think there's a bit of turmoil there. But I think with the games, obviously Everton away, you'd kind of be looking at Spurs and going, it should be a game they'd win, Kane scoring goals. But Everton are scrapping. They look good against Chelsea with the draw at the weekend. Excuse me. Brighton's not an easy game for them. I think Brighton beat them. Bournemouth again, you'd be looking and going, okay, Bournemouth at home, it's a game Spurs should win, but Liverpool thought that, so you just don't know. Newcastle away, I think we take points off them. I don't think they're good enough to beat us. Who they got then, Daz? Man United, is it?
Man United, Liverpool.
Man United, Liverpool. I think that three there, Man United, Newcastle, Man U, Liverpool, I think define Tottenham's season, because I don't think they get anything from those three games. I think they lose all three of them. Crystal Palace at home, look, they're reappointing the dinosaur. Today, Crystal Palace with Hodgson going back in. So again, Palace could turn up. Hodgson, probably turns one over. Aston Villa is probably a game you'd expect Spurs to win. I think Spurs get beat off Brentford. And I think Leeds away is a horrible game for Spurs at the back end of the season. And it's funny, I think Leeds could have a little say because they play a couple of us in that run-in, and I think they could have a say on how that top four pans out. But yeah, I don't think, if you were to do a kind of tot-up, I think there's a couple of draws and maybe a couple of wins in there for Spurs. I think Spurs slip away. That's my personal opinion. I don't think they hold that fourth. They've been playing brutal football and picking up the points, and I think that has to come to an end at some point. So I think there's games in there, in particular that middle three. I think they drop points, and I think with if Conte is gone, with a step-in manager, I think their home games could then be a little bit toxic because I think Spurs fans will turn on the team, and I think that just plays into everybody else's hands. But yeah, I think they'll struggle, lads.
Do you know what, Mark? I think that Brighton game's a huge game for Spurs as well. 2 games before the Newcastle one, because they've got to go to Everton when after the international break, and that game, because obviously we know Everton and Goodison Park are a much better side than when they play away. But if they don't get anything there, there's a lot of pressure on that Brighton game. And if they don't, ideally probably for Newcastle fans, I would say that Brighton game, you're probably realistically looking for a draw in that game, because obviously that means we're hopefully going to be above Spurs by then on point. When we get the game in hand, we obviously play West Ham that same night. But it also, it keeps Brighton a bit further away from us as well. But I was just looking at the fixtures while you were talking, and the interesting one is that Brentford are going to have a huge, huge say because they play all 5 of us. But the interesting thing is, and it's a good talking point that we can get onto at some point, is Ivan Toney's only guaranteed to play against Brighton in the next game because he's on 9 yellow cards, so that's a 2-game ban. And then we've also got to see when this ban's going to come in for his obviously betting indiscretions. So technically, the Brentford game could be his last game of the season for all we know. If he gets booked in there, you want realistically for us, we want him to either. We would prefer to get it. His 10th booking against Brentford, because then his first game ban would be us. But obviously, he still affects the Man United game, the game before. So that's ideally what we want as Newcastle fans, somebody to pick it up in that game and obviously help him get something at Brighton and help get something at Man United, then obviously be suspended for us. But that's just something that we can talk about later or whatever.
Yeah, no, it's a good point.
Good point, Richie. Yeah.
The one thing to raise is that Spurs have no room to manoeuvre because they play 2 games more than the rest of us, apart from Brighton. They play 3 more games.
They can't afford to drop any more, Pete. You're right.
Exactly.
They lose another 1 or 2, or they get a couple of draws in that. That's what I'm saying. That top four
pressure-
slips away, mate, because they've been playing brutal football.
The pressure's all on them. Defensively, they're no good. They're no better than some of the teams in the top half of the Premier League. And offensively, they are pinning all their hopes on Harry Kane. Without Harry Kane, they quite comfortably, and I watched the game against Southampton on Saturday, they quite comfortably lose the game on Saturday without Harry Kane. Harry Kane pulls out two bits of moments that actually gets him in the position. So for me, Tottenham are in the weakest position of them all.
Yeah.
And that's, like I said, that's just my opinion on that one. But
no, I think you're right, mate.
Cool. So that's you, Mark, and that's your analysis
Yep.
of Spurs. Pete, you get to pick between Man United or Brighton.
Now you pick Daz. I can talk about any team. Doesn't matter. You choose which one you're comfortable with.
I can talk about either as well. Look, we'll give you Man United. I'll talk about Brighton then.
No problem.
Right.
Some people say Man United is the easiest on paper. I've heard a few people say that Man United are because they don't have any of those top six teams or not as many as other teams on there. But they've got some tricky fixtures. You look at the first four without Casemiro. They come to St James's Park. I believe will win. So that's already a problem for them. Brentford at home without Casemiro. Brentford with Ivan Toney, and it could be without Ivan Toney. Richie made that point. I mentioned it to you guys the other day. Said he's on 9 bookings.
Yeah.
He's got 2 games before they play us to get a booking in that game. Even without him, I think Brentford has still got enough to beat Man United, in my opinion. And I believe that Brentford will take points off Man United there. So they're 2 games that in Man United's mind they'll expect to win, but they're 2 games that I believe that they won't. Everton at home, depends on which Everton turns up. If it's the Everton that goes to Stamford Bridge, who knows? But I'm not going to draw myself on every game. But I look at the Chelsea game at home. I look at the Spurs away. I look at Villa. Villa are playing some good stuff at the moment. Villa are equal on points to Chelsea. Villa have just as much of a right, and we'll talk about it in Battleground Europe, myself and Daz on Thursday, with regards to that, because Villa are on the same points as Chelsea, and they are within the European race as well. So we cannot discount them. And them going to Old Trafford with the way they're playing, and look, I'm not the biggest Villa fan after all the stuff from when we first got relegated and all the rest of it. But they're in the race and they're playing some good stuff at the moment. And that's not an easy game for Man United. And then you look at Brighton. Brighton smashed them 4-0 at their place last season, right at the back end of the season. And they look equally as good now as what they did then, maybe even a little bit better. So they've got games there that don't favour them, whether it's home or away, for various different reasons. So I don't think their lineup of fixtures is as easy as what people make out. They look at the teams and look at the fact that there's no Arsenal, there's no Man City, there's no Liverpool on there. I think it's an easier run in. I don't believe it is. And Man United, for all the good talk that they've been spoken about, should have lost to Southampton the other day, in one of their last games a couple of weeks ago. And you know, it's separate, but the FA Cup, Fulham were home and dry up until a mad couple of minutes where 2 players and the manager get sent off. So there are cracks appearing in this Man United team. Garnacho seems to be out for a period of time now. He got a bad injury. So their squad is starting to kind of draw in slightly, and that will present opportunities. It goes without saying that if we beat Man United, we could potentially be in 3rd position. By the next time, you know, we beat them, we've got a better goal difference with them, we go on the same points. Depending on what Tottenham do, we could be sitting in 3rd position. So some people have discarded Man United and said they're going to get 3rd position. I beg to differ. I think they're right in the race, just like everybody else. And you know what? Having 2 positions to fight for is a hell of a lot better than 1.
That Fulham game's a tasty one, last game of the season, because Fulham are going to be right up for that after the weekend's game in the FA Cup.
I think Fulham will disappear. If I'm honest, I think if it happens like it's been talked about, and Mitrovic gets a ban for the rest of the season, they're not the same team without Alexander Mitrovic. He was very, very good up until he got sent off against Man United, and he holds a position for them that is key to the way in which they play. They've been able to manage with him in the odd game, in the odd game, and Solomon's come on and done a good job here and there. But if you have Alexander Mitrovic missing for Fulham for a long period of time, and it's the end of the season, going into that game, last game of the season without Alexander Mitrovic, for me, I think Man United win that comfortably.
I think the thing with Mitrovic, Pete, is the way he has been playing, the way he holds the line, has allowed Willian to come in this season, and be more instrumental, kind of playing left side, but sometimes just kind of tucked in behind. When I watched the game at the weekend, so it's just it'll be interesting to see if, obviously, when he gets the ban, what the length of that ban is going to be. You'd expect it to be for the rest of the season, but it'll be interesting then to see how they do, because I think I agree with you. I think they'll struggle with that then, because they just don't have that hold up.
Just on Man United as well, they're still in the FA Cup and they're in the Europa League as well. So their fixtures there'll be other layers on top of these fixtures again. And if you see the star anywhere, that means that the game hasn't been allocated a date yet. Just to remind people of that. And Pete, I know you've mentioned it as in your description, but if you were to pick the 3 games to watch out for that could potentially define their league position, what 3 are you going for? I think you said Brighton.
Yeah, Brighton's for one, and Newcastle's another. So they're not necessarily clutched together.
Yeah.
So the Brighton, Newcastle, and I'm going to say Spurs away.
Did you say Villa as well before, Pete?
Yeah, I think Villa's going to be a tough one. Throw in the Villa one actually instead of the Spurs one. The only reason I chose Spurs is because they're both fighting for the same thing. So I think it could be one of them. To be fair, it could have been any of those 4 you could have mixed out, but they are. We've just talked about it. They're 4 very, very tough games in a fixture list that a lot of Man United fans and other fans are saying that it's an easy set of fixtures for Man United. It is not. It is not.
Cool.
And funnily enough, out of that 5, 3 of us play Villa away.
Yes.
Villa play all 5, 3 away and 2 at home.
Yeah. Not going to have
no, they could have a say in which way it goes as well.
Cool. Let's move to Brighton. So I'll go look at Brighton. Still in the FA Cup, of course. Having a great season in 7th spot on 42 points. So they're 5 points behind us. They do have a game in hand over us because they played 25. But as Richie pointed out, the Brentford, who everyone has to play. If you'll notice here that they have to play both Man City and Arsenal in their run-in. So difficult games at home against Man City and away against Arsenal, both in gun for the title. They also have to play 3 of the contenders as well in the shape of Spurs, Man United, and us. And the games against us and Man United have to be rescheduled, so there's no dates allocated to those yet. Then Chelsea, obviously a difficult place as well. They picked up a bit of form. They're away to Chelsea. They picked up a bit of form recently, but then dipped again. Chelsea, but interesting, not an easy one either. They should pick up points here. You imagine Villa difficult at the end. So if it was to pick their what will define their season, I'm going to say us is one key one. I'm going to say I don't think they get anything from either of these. So let me see. I'm going to say Villa, last game of the season. Interesting. Sorry?
I think they will.
You think they will pick up points?
I think they get beat off City, but I think they beat Arsenal.
I agree with you, Mark. I genuinely think,
and I think City's win is only minimal.
I don't think they'll get beat, but I think they'll take points off Arsenal.
Yeah,
away at Arsenal.
Yeah, Arsenal don't like teams that play football going there. And although they argued that we sat behind the ball when we went there, actually for pockets in that game in January when we went to the Emirates, we actually played pockets of good football and probably should have scored in 2 or 3 of those pockets in the game because we played the football. They don't like teams. They want teams to sit back so they can push themselves and kind of impose themselves on a team. They don't like
Arsenal don't defend well.
Well,
I don't think. Not all the time.
For me, it's still an absolute disgrace that players, pundits, and various other fans talk about Arsenal centre-backs and Man United centre-backs and as some of the best in the Premier League, whereas our centre-backs have got the best defensive record in the Premier League and are not spoken about at all. I think it's still a disgrace. That's me personally.
Okay, so let's say Arsenal, us, and Villa for the last game of the season. You know how Brighton like to bottle things in the last game of the season, like they did for us in the Championship, where we snatched it. And also the thing with Brighton as well, they're going to have a bit of fixture congestion being in the FA Cup as well. So that's why I think they have a difficult run in and being 5 points adrift of us. So it's even though I really rate Brighton, I think they're doing really well. I think it'll catch up on them as we come closer towards the end of the season. But so yeah, I'm going for these 3: Arsenal, Newcastle, and Villa last game of the season. And I know, Richie, we didn't focus on Newcastle's 3 games to define their season, but maybe give us your thoughts and we can all debate it then.
Let's have a look. I think Brighton could be, depending on when it's rearranged. Because obviously, as we know, they've got a cup final coming up as well, so that's an extra game that they've got to fit in. So, let's have a look. What else?
Do you think that Villa game's going to be horrible?
It could be. It could be. Yeah.
Leeds away for me is one that I'm not looking forward to.
For me, lads, I think those 3 away games after Man United are crucial.
Yeah.
For me, it's not necessarily about the team; it's about the fact that we don't play at home for 3 games. I think they're really, really tough games, those 3, and not necessarily on paper with the teams that we're playing against, but going away midweek to West Ham on the Saturday against Brentford, and then the following weekend against Villa before we have Tottenham. I think they're massive games. Games will set us, in my opinion, will set us on the path of where we're going, either Champions League or just European football in general.
It could be that. Go on, Mark. Sorry.
I was just going to say, just as Pete was finishing up there, I think the key with those 3 is don't lose. Take a point if nothing else. You know, if we can focus on our home games, I think that, you know, and a few draws in amongst that away from home, I think we nail that top 4 piece. But
normally I would agree with you. I don't know what you boys think, but you look at some of the other teams and some of the other games that other teams have got. You look at Liverpool, for example. They're games where they're going to drop points. We've got an opportunity to really stretch and map that. I think Chris made a really good point about Liverpool's end to the season and not having massive or big fixtures. What you want is a significant gap on Liverpool, so that they can't catch you by the end. By the time they get to that win, so the pressure's on them. So winning those, if honestly, guys, look, I'll give it back to Richie because it's Richie's point, but I just think those next 4 games, if we come out of them with 3 wins and a draw or something like that, I think we're on to Champions League football, in my opinion.
To be fair, Pete, you've pretty much, apart from that Brighton game, that, as I said, I think that's the West Ham game. I do fancy us there anyway, but I agree that the Brentford and Villa games are crucial. I just think that both teams that are on, you know, a decent form at the minute, difficult place to go. So I would probably say, as I said, I fancy something at West Ham, and that's obviously why I put the Brighton game as the other tricky one, because obviously, see that, you know, that could get fitted in right near the end of the season. Brighton could be well out of it by then, we don't know. But obviously, we're doing this show with them, a game in hand. Listen, could go if they win that, they're 2 games, but 2 points behind us, so they're still in the mix at the minute. But by the time that gets rearranged, they might be long gone, like what I said before about Chelsea. But the interesting thing, which I was taught as well, is, obviously we played Forest on Friday night, and Forest's home form was pretty decent. City dropped points there, Liverpool dropped points there. There's some big teams have dropped points at Forest, and it can be obviously their survival is going to depend on the City ground form. And I noticed there's a few. I think Man United have got to go there. Yes, okay, they beat them in the EFL Cup in the semi-finals, but the Premier League seems to be a different animal for them at home. And they made it difficult for us at times on Friday, but obviously the quality shone through because we've got that extra, that X factor in some of our players that Forest don't have. But you've got to look at this big teams dropped points, either lost or only picked up a point at the City ground. So that's another thing that could really play in our hand. That to be how valid and important that 3 points we got on Friday was.
Richie, do you think we've screwed them? Do you think we've screwed over Forest though with the kind of the aura around their home record because we've got them broken it?
They weren't happy.
No, honestly, I was walking out at the end of the game and look, bearing in mind it was 20 or 25 minutes after the game, we were still celebrating. But when we walked out, the Forest fans were still there, and the same conversation is that like they were like, if we keep playing like this at home, we're going to get beat time and time again. It was almost like that aura and that expectancy and that talk about being at home and being a great record since September is now gone. Do you think it's almost given other teams confidence that they can go and get points there?
Well, to be fair, it's the same with any place. You look at how many places where we've beaten in the past where we've always had a shit record there. All it takes is one good result there to get the hoodoo off your back. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, it could go in that favour, but it also, Forest could turn around and think, fuck that, that's going to be the only one we do this season. Their Premier League survival is going to, away from home, they've been abysmal. I think we were talking about the Spurs game the week before. I was in our chat, the build up to obviously the players' business, and it was 3-1 and stuff. But I tell you what, they were awful. Absolutely awful. And bear in mind, Spurs aren't playing well. They made Spurs look like world beaters. They really did. And then Spurs weren't even great that game either. So, it's the home form. They're going to depend on it. And they're going to, like St. James's Park, our crowd, we're renowned as the 12th man, how important, we can make it unbearable, for a lot of teams that come here. Obviously, we saw how Arsenal were affected by it last season. Even the biggest teams can collapse. But it's a bit like, I think I look at Forest, the City ground, it's very similar to Brentford as well. Small stadiums, but the crowd can really get onto it. And I thought before, and I noticed that Kelly Cates actually mentioned it in the build-up of the game. She said the atmosphere for that game on Friday night was just electric. And obviously, Pete, you were there, so you can comment that firsthand. And that's not just Newcastle fans making it, but also they said that the Nottingham Forest fans were a big part of that as well. So there's a chance that if they can pick up some points anywhere, but they could do it against people that way in this run up as well. There's nothing to say that they can't do it. They've done it before this season. There's nothing to say they could do it again. And could you imagine if we were only one of the, what you say, so-called big six, and obviously us, that we've actually went there and actually got a result and got the 3 points and haven't dropped points there, because that, as I said, that could be pivotal towards the run for Champions League place.
You guys watched it on TV. Did you guys actually think the atmosphere was good on Friday?
I thought it was shite.
I've got to be honest. I
didn't hear them. I didn't hear them singing at all.
Dor and Dave, who were absolutely great to me on Friday. But there was a bit of an atmosphere build as the players were coming out, and for about a minute or two afterwards, it was like everyone was getting up for the game. And then as soon as the game went on, it just went zoom. Just absolute silence after that point.
What happened there? Why am I the only one?
Can you hear me? Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can see.
It's just Daz pissing around, whatever he's doing.
What happened there?
After that,
the screen went off.
Minutes, it went absolute silence, and all you could hear it's Newcastle United fans singing, chanting all the way pretty much through the game. I think we had a 5-minute spell after they scored where we didn't. We were kind of like almost shell-shocked. I don't think it was great, but Mark,
I was mainly picking up on what I was on about the start of the game. Kelly Gates picking up the start, the atmosphere in the build-up was electric. You know, if say for Forest get a goal in the first, say, 10 minutes against any of those teams that are in and around our the Champions League European places, that could be huge. That if that crowd gets on their side, it could get them over the line. We don't know, but as I said, Man City have dropped points there. Liverpool have dropped points there. I think Spurs dropped points down there as well. So, could we be one of the only teams in the European place to actually go at the City Ground and win?
I think the thing with the fixtures as well, though. Sorry, Daz. The thing with all of those fixtures there as well, and some of the other fixtures that may not be up there. Everybody's taking points off everybody else. It's like if you look at relegation from bottom up to 12th position or something, there's like 2 or 3 points between them. So it's like one of the weirdest seasons ever. But I think, Pete, you made the point earlier in our season, which is with Liverpool and Chelsea misfiring, now is the season. Because you're not going to get another chance or another season like this, I don't think. I think that top 2 will sort itself out. I still think City will pip Arsenal. I think Arsenal will have a blow at some point. And I think City are just firing. So I'd fully expect them. But I think that the rest of those results, you just don't know. You put the games on a Saturday and you're going, Canal, didn't see that coming.
Yeah. You know what,
weird.
Lads? You know what, lads? We're talking about Man United, Liverpool, and Tottenham that have always been fighting in and around the top 6 for God knows how many years, or have been languishing at the bottom. But the one thing that you wouldn't have said in those years gone by that we're saying now is that you're looking at those 3 fixtures of Liverpool, Tottenham, and Man United, and you can't guarantee that they're going to just slide teams aside and win games like they would always do. That's the big difference. And that's, what you've just said, Mort, is absolutely right, is that we're in a position now where we can steal a march on those teams. Us getting Champions League football means that we can sign better players, we'll get better money, and be able to pump more money into the club because we'll be able to justify it. We're in a position now where it's kind of now or never. We're going to strengthen in the summer. We'll get on that conversation. Daz, I'm sure you've got a section on that later on. But equally, so are those teams. And those teams aren't going to maybe start the season like they have this season, next season. They're going to start
Exactly.
hard, a lot stronger. Now, Arsenal may drop off. Man City may drop off. We don't know. But it's going to be a lot harder to secure that top 4 berth next year. But it'll be a lot easier for us to try and compete for it next year if we have Champions League football in the bag. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. And do you know what as well? You've got to take into account, Pete, and I know sometimes we forget this. Our next game is at the start of April. And at the start of April, and who would have thought this at the start of the season? At the start of April, we've lost 3 games this season. And that's been twice to Liverpool and once to Man City. That's it. That's it.
Same as Arsenal, who are likely to win the league.
But it doesn't get spoken about because it's not fashionable.
Yeah.
The question
doesn't suit the agenda,
The question I had is just on when we're highlighting the key fixtures for each club is is no one worried about Spurs, right? Spurs with the new manager and that new manager bounce and everything like that as not being and one that was potentially our nearest rival for that 3rd, 4th spot, and no one's worried about Spurs. You think that's going to go our way? I know we're home.
I'll be honest, as Liverpool worry me more than Spurs, and I felt like that a few weeks ago when we were talking about this previously. I felt like Liverpool were going to be the main competitors, and I just think this Spurs issue, problem, whatever you want to call it, I just think it's just going away. I just think it's going to go worse and worse.
And they're not going to bring in a new manager.
Yeah.
Not with 10, 11 games to go. If Conte goes, which is a big if, but I think he will, given some of the things he's been doing and saying, he's certainly aiming for it, and he gets his payoff, Levy pulls the plug, they stick Mason in there again like they did last season.
That's been the rumour, Mark. They're like, who in their right mind would go into Tottenham right now with where they're at? They're on the floor right now. Is Pochettino going to go in there right now? No, because he's going to want a summer to prep them.
Whoever's going to want to come in, exactly. He's going to want to bring in their own players. He's going to want to have money. And I don't think you get that from Daniel Levy.
They did it before with Mourinho, just before the cup final. They got rid of him and they put Mason in for the rest of the season. They do that exactly the same again. Look, I'm all for that. I'm encouraging that. I want that to happen, because if that happens, they're going to drop off and they're going to continue to lose games. But what manager in their right mind would go in right now and do that job? Because
exactly. And you know the thing, Pete?
Turmoil.
If Tottenham wasn't a club that's in London, they wouldn't get the managers that they've had, because it's in my opinion, with that chairman Daniel Levy. Okay, he's got debt up to the eyeballs with the stadium and everything else, and he gets the NFL games, and I get all of that. But you would look at that club and look at him and look at the managers that have been there and that squad of players and go, do you know what? It's a fucking poison chalice, lads. Because nobody going there has been successful. They've got Champions League and they've got to finals and they've got to this, but they've never won. And people talk about Newcastle not winning anything. Tell you what.
The thing is, Mark, right, and it's been talked about quite a lot this week, is is there a lot of people backing up Conte and what he actually said? Because you've got to look at the managers that they've had, and they still haven't been able to achieve anything. Bear in mind, they've had a Harry Kane, who's been one of the best Premier, and he still could go and beat Alan Shearer's record and be Premier League all-time top goal scorer. But you've got to look at, you've had Poch, you've had Mourinho, you've now had Conte. We're obviously talking about managers who have won things in major leagues around Europe, and all three of them are saying exactly the same thing. There's something deeper in that club. That's and it could be right that perhaps there was the rumours go around that he had a word with Daniel Levy and said he wasn't having a go at Daniel Levy. But we also know that Daniel Levy makes some absolutely stupid business decisions. Yes, he's obviously as Martins has mentioned, the stadium he's made. Yes, he's done a fantastic job with the stadium, and to get all the NFL and stuff like that. But the playing squad's what brings the attraction in for the main money for the Champions League and trophies. And I'm not being funny. Newcastle, in my opinion, will win something before Spurs will, easily.
Exactly that, Richie. What he has done, he has tried to raise the profile of Tottenham Hotspur, but not raise the profile of the club of being a club that competes at the highest level. And that's the biggest problem. He's gone to kind of raise the profile outside of football with forgetting what's actually needed within football. Now, look, they've had the best pot 15, 16 years on Newcastle United since we've had Mike Ashley. And what have they done? Absolutely nothing. They've wasted it. And I go back to the point that I mentioned to you guys probably about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. And I remain, I might have even said it before that. And I stand by it. Newcastle United and Tottenham, all we did in 16 years ago was switch places, because we were doing exactly what they were. 5th, 4th, 3rd in the league, chasing Champions League football, European football, getting to semi-finals of UEFA Cup. We were there competing. We were doing that whilst Tottenham were finishing mid-table and below. All we've done is switch places. Now, they've switched places at a time where money has become a huge factor in football. Now, what we're going to do, in my opinion, in the next 4 or 5 years is switch places. Daniel Levy knows it, which is why he didn't want the takeover to happen. And you're absolutely right, Richie. I genuinely believe that we will win a trophy before they do. And what does that say about them? And Tottenham fans know it, and they're panicking. What would that say about their club that they've had 16 years on us to try and do something with being this traditional top 6 and done nothing with it? Nothing. But yet we come in, within our first season, we get to a cup final. And who's to say that in the years going on that we don't win a numerous amount of trophies? Even Leicester have done more than them in 16 years. They've won a title and the FA Cup. Shield, if you want to count that in there. Throw that in there too. They've done more than them. But I believe in the next 6-7 years, we'll do more than Tottenham Hotspur. I completely agree with what you're saying.
I think the thing is as well, Pete, with Levy in particular, over the last 5 years of investment, Spurs have spent on average about 100 million a season. Over the last 5, they've spent around 500 million. Chelsea have spent 1.2 billion in that same time. Liverpool have spent. Man United have spent. The problem with Spurs, with Levy, is he doesn't have those pockets. So he now needs investment.
Yeah.
And he's, in my opinion, one of those that he's never going to give up full control, in my view, with that club. So therefore, the investment or somebody with investment coming on makes it harder because he's still sitting at the top of that tree. Therefore, he's got the likes of us, City, Liverpool, Man United, if they get the Qatari takeover or whatever it is, they get that. All of a sudden, Spurs and Daniel Levy are looking at that and going, we can't compete no more. Because he doesn't have the pockets.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know. I want to get all what you guys to have an opinion on this. I believe, and it goes back to what you just said about a takeover and the price of the club. I think them getting that new stadium has been the worst thing they could have ever done.
Yep.
They cannot.
It's screwed them financially from selling.
Who wants to buy Tottenham Hotspur at $5 billion when they've not won a trophy, they've got no heritage, and they've got no history? Not like Man United. Man United can justify 5-6 billion.
Yeah, and it's not like that stadium is even leveraged there. It's just full on against the club.
Exactly.
It's deep. You need massively deep pockets to take that club on.
That's why that takeover disappeared very, very quickly. Liverpool is in a similar boat. They've got heritage, they've got history, all that, but their owners, the money that they want for the club, nobody's going to pay that. Even Man United's owners are umming and ahhing about it because they want more money than what owners are willing to buy, which goes back to the original point, is the investment of 350 million in Newcastle United is the best piece of business the PIF could have ever done, because they could spend, you just imagine, you've just talked about Chelsea spent 1.5 billion and all the rest of it. They've bought us for 350 million, and over the next 10, 15 years could probably spend 5 or 6 billion investing in the club, making it the biggest club in the world, and not have to put all of that in to buy one.
And no debt.
Exactly.
We've spent 211 million. 211 million. And if you think, even, I know Pete, you just mentioned there 5 or 6 billion. I think if we spent $1 billion, we'll far surpass Spurs.
Yeah, I agree.
If we, I mean, I know this was spoken about. Sorry, Daz, just last thing. I know this was spoken about. Recently. I think it was on Matters actually, but they were talking recently about how much the club would be worth if we were to sell now, and it's a great point, because you mentioned there, Pete. I think you said 350 million. I don't know whether. Well, it's rumored to be 305. Could be 350. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
If PIF came out tomorrow morning, I mean, we can't keep our fingers crossed that won't happen. PIF came out tomorrow morning and went sell Newcastle United. How much would the club be for sale now compared to their competitors? What would be a reasonable price?
Tripled.
Easy.
Well, on West Ham, look, we're going off a tangent here, so I apologise now.
Yeah, sorry, Dad.
This wasn't fucking planned.
750 odd million West Ham want for their club. What have they done? To deserve that as a fee for their club? We're probably worth that now. But anyway.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Where were we? Right. So what I want, and I know, Chris, you had talked about you doing your points total, but what I want to get off everybody is where they think each of these 5 clubs will finish. So this is their current position, the points, and so on and so forth. So one by one, let's get your final positions for each of these 5 clubs. And assuming it's in the top 7, let's say. So, Chris, do you want to go first?
Okay, so do you? We just do Man United and then you're going through everyone's name, yeah? Or you want me to?
Okay, yeah, okay. If you want to do it that way, let's do it that way.
Okay, so according to my points tally, which I'll share with you later if you want, I have got Man United finishing third.
Third. Okay. Third for Man United. Mart, your thoughts where Man United will finish?
Yeah, agree with Chris. I think they'll as much as they've got some of the fixtures, I still think they'll pick up enough and Rashford scoring and the rest of it. So yeah, third place for me.
Cool. Pete, you're sorry, Richie.
Richie,
You're next.
Hey. Oh, do you know what? I'm gonna live a little here. I'm gonna say where they're gonna finish. They're gonna finish fourth.
Ooh. Pete.
I've got a feeling.
You know what he wants to say. Don't you?
Seventh.
I've got a feeling. I've got a feeling. Oh, yeah. I'm gonna go fourth.
Fourth.
Come on.
I've just got a feeling. I don't know why. I could be wrong. I've got a feeling.
Do you know why, Pete? Because the ball's in our court.
Mm.
Yeah.
If we win
Yeah,
all
it
of
is.
our games and if we get any more points than them, we finish third.
Yeah.
I'm going for Man
Not to
United.
mention, by the way, Daz,
they're
just
going
to jump
third.
in there. Sorry, mate, dead quick.
What?
Not to mention, which we haven't spoken about, Man United are still in, as Daz has put there, still in the FA Cup and still in the Europa League. Still added games.
Them and Liverpool could win a couple of bits and pieces, and we could finish fourth and still not qualify.
Don't go down that route.
Just saying.
Yeah,
Sorry, Daz, go on, mate.
you'll piss Keith off.
Yeah.
Sorry, mate.
Right, so I have Man United finishing third as well, unfortunately. Let's go to Spurs next. Where are Spurs finishing? This be interesting. Chris.
Okay, I've got Spurs finishing sixth.
Sixth.
Ooh.
Sixth for Spurs. Yeah, they've played 2 games more than Liverpool, 2 games more than us, 3 games more than Brighton. Martin. Fifth. Richie.
Seventh.
Oh, do you know what it is?
Oh.
I was nearly there with seventh, but I was like, oh. I just think they'll.
Oh.
I'd love it as well.
Yeah, I know. So
I would love it.
Yeah.
seventh bottom.
Okay, jeez. Pete.
Yeah, I did toy with seventh because I think they're going to have a horrible run. But I just think Spurs have just got too many points for Brighton to claw back. So I'm going to say sixth.
And I'm also going sixth. I'll leave Newcastle to last, right?
Even though by the end of Brighton we'll know.
We'll know. Yeah. Right, no, we'll go Brighton. We'll go Brighton next. So, right.
Okay, mate.
Let's go Brighton next. Chris.
Yes, I've got Brighton seventh.
Seventh for Brighton. And note that you can't pick when you picked already. Mart.
Hey, yeah, seventh.
Richie. Can't pick seventh.
No. Do you know what? I think they might shock people. I'm going fifth.
Fifth. Okay. Pete.
Yeah. You know what? I've gone the other way. I've gone. They either finish seventh or eighth. But what Villa and Chelsea are 4 points behind them. It's not a lot to claw back.
No.
But yeah, I'll stick with seventh for now because the other two are not on this.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair enough. Yeah. Cool. And I am saying seventh for Brighton as well. I just think too many games and too many big games as well, and the points to claw back. Let's go Newcastle. Or let's do Newcastle and Liverpool together. You take so Chris, I need your marks or your result for Liverpool and Newcastle. What are you doing?
Yep. So I have got Newcastle to finish fourth and Liverpool to finish fifth. And there's literally 3 points in it.
Ooh. Martin.
Yeah. Yeah, Newcastle 4th, Liverpool 6th. I think Liverpool are 2 stop-start. I think, like Pete said, you know, they go away and thump Man United, then go to Bournemouth and get beat. I think that's how the season will continue. They'll win ones you don't expect, and they'll get beat in games you'd expect them to pull away in.
Yeah.
Most energy drinks taste like.
Who's that?
What was that?
Not me.
My bad.
Oh, sound like Thomas the Tank Engine or something.
It was an advert.
Right, Richie, where are you having us?
No, I'm not, Bobby. Just as your chat, it's not in the chat. It's not a plot twist. I'm not putting Liverpool third. Newcastle will be third, and I think that makes Liverpool sixth.
Yeah,
6.
I just look at their next 3 fixtures. I can't see them getting anything off those next 3 fixtures. I just think it puts them, so far behind off the ball. I just think it's going to be quite a lot to catch up on. And then the pressure of the Leeds, Forest, and West Ham. As I said, they've got to go to Forest, who've got to, the big teams have dropped points there. So, and they lost at Bournemouth away. So,
I think, Rich, bold statement. I think Liverpool beat Arsenal at home and really put the cat amongst the pigeons.
I think we beat them as well. I think we beat Arsenal as well.
Oh, well, Arsenal. Sorry, I was thinking that we don't play Liverpool, do we? But no, I agree. Yeah.
Pete,
Yeah.
where are you putting us?
No. Newcastle 3rd, Liverpool 5th.
3rd and 5th.
I genuinely think we're in the mix. I really do. No distractions, one thought, one focus. I genuinely think we're in the mix. Obviously, we've got players missing, but when you've got Elliot
Injuries
Anderson
are coming back, though.
Well, when you've got Elliot Anderson coming on and doing that, and he barely has kicked a ball this season, you've got to think to yourself, we're in with a chance here. He could do what he did at Bristol Rovers 2-3 divisions down last year and come in and just be a whirlwind and just come on and just make an impact in every game between now and the end of the season. And yeah,
Pete, do you think and again, apologies if this was discussed on the review show, do you think that we saw the cameo that we saw from Elliot Anderson because he was put in one of those front 3 positions rather than the central midfield?
That's his position. Where he came on and played, that's where he likes to play.
Yeah. Because when he's come on previously, he's tended to play in like the central midfield. And everyone said he should be further forward.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. But equally, I think he's probably better coming on and playing as a cameo, as an impact player. I don't particularly think he'll be ready yet. Maybe next season, let's see how he develops. But I think him playing the way he did on Friday would make Eddie Howe think, right, I can bring him off the bench. He can come and be an impact and do a job. I thought he was excellent. I really did. I thought he was very, very impressive. And I can't say he was that against Liverpool when he started. He deserved to be taken off. He didn't play well. But, wow, he was a proper player. And I tell you what, he ain't off put some size on him. He is a monster.
He looks ripped as well, doesn't he?
Physically, just watching him, like he imposed himself on Serge Aurier. Serge Aurier looked like a minion compared to him. Like, honestly, his arms and his shoulders are huge. The guy's 20 years old, and he looks huge. Like, and it's not huge to the point where like he can't move. He was just as quick. He was just as strong. He was just as nimble on the ball at his feet. That was he put himself on the stage. And I'm really excited. I'm not going to put too much pressure on him, but I'm really excited to see what he can do in a cameo position moving forward. If he can regenerate that and continue that, because if he can do that, I don't believe that we miss Gordon or Miggy for however long they're out. I don't believe we miss them. I think he'll come on and do a job. Murphy equally, I thought was fantastic. But it was brilliant.
Now, lads, sorry here. I just have to put in my results, and I'm sorry to spoil the party here, lads. I'm really sorry to spoil the party, but I have Liverpool finishing 5th and us finishing 4th. So you know what that means for the deluded load of lads. Can you hear it?
Why not be positive, lads? Why not be positive?
It's ours
Long
to
way to
lose.
go, though.
It's ours to lose. It really, really is.
It's what
That's what I said at the start.
It's right. It's right, Rich.
It's in our hands.
Yeah.
As much as
Yeah.
you look at all those other fixtures and you'll sit and you'll go third, fourth, they'll win this, they'll win that. Do you know what, lads? Fuck all of that. Just focus on our own.
Yeah.
Don't worry about what the other teams are doing. If we win our games, a couple of draws away from home, a couple of wins where we can, we'll be grand. We'll be fine.
Daz, I say, I don't know whether you guys would agree. I say after the next 4 fixtures, so after we play Villa, we relook at this and see if our opinions are different. Because if you scroll up slightly, we'll still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll still have 8 games to go, so we can still evaluate the last 8 games of the season, and let's see whether our run,
Whether we were right.
Liverpool's run, we look at if we're
Just
right
where we were, yeah.
and whether our opinions have changed. Because look, results can change it. I think, Chris, you said it. You were absolutely nail on the head. You know, before these last 2 games, we would have never been as confident as we were now, but we are, because we put 2 runs together. We're playing good football. We deserve to win the last 2 games, and we're in the mix. And other teams have got difficult games. So let's see.
Another thing, Pete. Next weekend is potentially huge as well, because Liverpool go to Man City. They're already 5 points behind us. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
We beat Man United. We go third.
Yeah.
Yep. And that puts a lot of pressure on on Spurs to get something at Everton when they're at shambles at the minute.
Yep.
Yeah.
Can you guys genuinely see Everton going and beating Spurs?
Yes.
I can.
Or at least get something.
Yeah, as much as Everton pissed me off, and me and Chris were there last season, I was still annoyed at that result. It's been just over a year. It was a year on Friday.
Spurs cannot defend.
I got reminders on Friday when I was out, Pete.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, it's a Wobie day. I was like, what are you on about? And he was like, and I was just like, oh.
I got reminded in the ground on Friday that it was a year to the day, and I still get angry at that result, because I still believe we should have never lost. But they have a knack of picking up results at home at Goodison when they don't necessarily deserve it. Tottenham are the classic team, Rich. The classic team that will go there and get turned over.
Yeah, 3-0.
So that if results go, even if Spurs go to draw, right, we still stay third with the game in hand.
Yeah. And this is the point that I made to Mark. Is I think, Mark, you agreed, is that this is the time now, these next 4 games, this is where we build a cushion. We build those points up. We go to Man United come to us, we turn them over. We go to West Ham. West Ham do not like midweek games at their place. They're not the same team. And if we go there and turn them over, it then builds us with confidence. 4 games on the bounce, 4 wins, going into Brentford away.
Yep.
Full of confidence, maybe without Tony, maybe, but even with, we can still win. Full of confidence. That could just, we could just be on that wave that we were before World Cup. We really could. But
let's remove the fixtures. Let's go to questions. And anything from the chat, anything, any questions anyone wants to ask?
I'll throw it.
90 likes.
Sorry?
Derek's just put in the chat, 270 odd watching and only 90 likes. Come on,
hit that like button.
Yeah, exactly. Come on, hit the likes. It's got to be worth it for the fact that hitting the like, you don't always see the 5 of us. So surely that in itself is worth a like. Fully loaded tonight. Yeah.
I must admit, I haven't had my eye on the chat in the last like 45
Well done,
hours.
mate. Thanks for coming.
I couldn't flash it up on the screen, could I? Because we had our chart up. But we did get some really interesting questions in towards the start of the show. So Michael Pomar says, what should our target for points be? For context, last year, West Ham got 56 for the last European spot. Spurs were 4th with 71. What are we looking at points wise, guys? I mean, I'll share with you earlier because of the day. I got us finishing on 69 points. That's where I got us to, and that secured. I know I thought that, and it secured fourth spot.
It's interesting you say that, Chris, because I did it while we were talking. Newcastle at the minute average 1.8 points per game. What how many played out of the 26 games that they played? If they continued that average, it would put you on 68.7, so realistically 69 points. But I think what the main thing is, obviously, is we can't lose points to the teams that are in and around us. That's one thing. And we've got to try and get the draws that we've had a lot of this season to 3 points as well. If we are going to draw, make sure we do it against teams in and around us so that they don't overtake us or get ahead of us. A bit like what we realistically mentioned with what we didn't want about Liverpool. We all said we didn't want to lose against Liverpool because it kept that if you draw, it kept that gap even further apart. So it's that's what we've got to be careful. We've got to be in the mix constantly. And if we get that average, I agree. You're guaranteeing that Champions League place.
The thing is, for me, for us to keep picking up those points, Isaac has to start every game. Wilson now is a bench player and comes off if needed. I think we run with the strongest mid that we can. So I think Willock needs to retain that left-hand side. I think you got Joe Linton coming back in. You got Bruno. You've got Longstaff. The right, I think, there's a toss-up there between Almiron and Murphy. Isaac up front. You got Anderson to come off the bench. Though I think the back five stays as it is. I don't see how changing it. So I think, the difference for me, if you look at the games that we've lost, the only difference between us, City and Liverpool, is in games we've not been clinical enough. Games where we've had draws with, and I think I said this on the show the other week when I was on, we're still creating as many chances in a game as we did pre-World Cup. We're still creating the big chances. We're still creating goal-scoring opportunities. The problem we've had with the draws is we've not been clinical like Liverpool and Man City and Arsenal. That's the only difference. We've only lost 3 times. Only difference is the draws, and the only reason for that is we've not been scoring, but we are creating the chances. So that's why, for me, Isaac starting, bolster that midfield, we'll start to convert those chances, and I think you'll see we'll turn more draws into wins.
Yeah.
Chris, you wanted to look at the league table.
Yeah, thank you for that, Daz. Yeah, the only reason I wanted that, mate, is because one of the next questions was from Michael Pobar. Do we think Chelsea are no longer a threat with the strength in that squad? If they go on a run, should we be worried? And I think as well at this point, it's fair, after what Pete said earlier, it's fair to probably look at Villa as well. So if I just remove that comment, so you can see there Chelsea are on 38 points, so they are what?
9 behind.
9 behind.
Played a game more though.
We've got
a game in hand. Yeah. Are we saying that's too big, boys? Is that what we're saying?
Chelsea are a basket case. They don't. Potter can't get a tune out of them.
Chris, for me, it's what I said earlier on.
Sorry.
We played Chelsea last game of the season. Hopefully, they can pick up some form in between that, and they play a lot of the teams in and around us, so they can hopefully take points off them. However, by the time we play them last game of the season, it should hopefully there isn't anything on that game when we go to Stamford Bridge. I think that's the big plus we've got when we play Chelsea. It's the last game of the season, and it could already be sorted by then.
Yeah, we did it. We did it in 2012 where we kind of left it late to fight for Champions League football. I think we went to Everton last game of the season. We were horrific. We were awful and ended up losing comfortably. We don't want to be in that position fighting for Champions League and having to go to Stamford Bridge. We need it wrapped up before that period. And look, we could go 12 points clear of Chelsea. Chelsea are not playing well. They're going to claw 12 points back before even getting ahead of us in between that time. And we've got a game more to play. I just don't see it. I don't see it.
It's too big a gap.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. So the next question, which will require our spreadsheet again, if you've got it there, please, Daz.
I do indeed, Chris. Just give me 1 sec.
Thank you very much, mate. Where are we? Where is it? yeah, okay. It's another Michael Pomar one. Michael Pomar is on fire tonight. Michael Pomar asks, how many more losses do you see on our fixture list? Which I think is a really good one. Obviously we've given our prediction for the the league finish. Where I know we've already highlighted. Richie selected those 3 games as our tough games. But out of those 12 games remaining, how many do we realistically see as losses? Because we don't. I'm sure we'll all agree we don't all think we're invincible. But how many do we see as losses? I mean, for me personally, looking at it, I think Brentford away is looking naughty. I'd like to think we wouldn't lose to Villa, but again, I can see us dropping points, so I do get that. I think Arsenal at home, you have to put that as a potential loss, depending on how Arsenal are playing. Do I think we'll get something? Yeah, I do. But, again, it's probably, you can probably understand why I'm saying Arsenal, because, they could be flying high and battling for the title. Chelsea away, Rich has just mentioned, that could be a loss for me. Again, depends on where we are, depends on how much we need it. But the other games, lads, I don't look at any and think, oh yeah, loss. That's not to say I don't think we'll lose, but I'm not looking at any other games. Me personally, I'm thinking, yeah, that could be a tricky one. What about you, boys?
Villa away for me worries me.
Yeah.
Villa away.
Villa.
Yeah. And I know this might sound completely pessimistic, but I actually worry a little bit about Brighton at home.
Yeah.
If they're still in the same form, and it's coming down to that, depending on where it is in our schedule.
Yeah.
But, if they're in the same vein of form, they will. I think overall for me, I think Brighton are real dark horses. I think they could do better than a lot of people think. But them two for me, I think Villa is a tricky one with Emre seeming to get a tune out of them now, and don't know. We just don't have a great record against Brighton, and I think they could just be a bit of a banana skin.
I think the interesting thing I've just been obviously we worked out the average points we're on so far, and we worked out if you continue in the same vein, we get about 69. Obviously, if you do the full maths, obviously 12 games still to play, that's 36 points. That would take you to a maximum of 85. So we need
to win 8 though, Rich, to get that. We'd need to win 8 of our remaining games.
That's obviously 12 games. Yeah, but the thing is, though, we've got 12 games, so realistically, the chances of us, going we could go on a run again. Do you know what I mean? Where we don't lose again, full stop. But for me, I think if the maximum points we can get is 85. Realistically, if we go on the average, we said there's 69. So there's a 16-point gap between then. So of dropping points out of the maximum to what we've had on average. So for me, realistically, I'm not even going to say which fixtures are which. As long as we don't lose more than we've lost already this season, we've got a very, very good chance.
So 21 points for me, I think, could potentially get anywhere. I think 65 is the benchmark. 65 guarantees us Europe. I think anywhere between
65 and
68 and 70 could potentially get us top 4. In my opinion,
it's exactly what Michael Portman's just said. I've just said there. We've lost 3 games in 26. If you lose, less 3 in the next 12, you're still going to be in Champions League.
Converting those draws into wins, lads.
Yeah, it's key.
We are on 47 because we've drawn those games, and it goes back to my point about finishing, creating the chances, but being more the lethal in front of goal and taking our opportunities.
But the fact on that, Martin, is
you got to win. You got to win 8 games, Rich.
Yeah, you've got to look at those. How many of those points that we've got this season should have been wins that have been stuff taken out of our hands that have been like VAR or something like that?
But you can't. There's no point looking at that. Do you know what I mean? Because that's gone. So you can't look at the next 8 and go, right, well, we need to win 8. But what happens if we get screwed over by VAR, or all of a sudden, we get 3 injuries? That's just part and parcel of it. But to get to that point, from a point of trying to secure it with 11, 12 games, we need to turn the draws into wins and we need to get at least 8 wins out of our current batch to get to that point. So all I'm saying is that we've got to change those draws into W's on that line.
Pick our 8 wins, though.
For me, Man U, West Ham, Spurs.
Whoa. Slow down.
Sorry.
Man U, West Ham.
I didn't know you were changing the colour. For me,
Sorry.
Do we need 8 wins?
I don't think we do.
No, you need the accumulation of 24 points, don't you?
Yeah.
That's I think what Mark's basically saying.
Yeah.
So obviously,
if you
as long
want
as
to
you
secure
get
that top 4, 71, 72 points for me gets you that.
For me, you could get 6 wins and 3 draws, and get what you need to get.
Yeah,
Well,
no,
where's our bank?
you can have I'm not saying you can't have a permutation. I'm just saying you need. For me, I think we need 22, 24 points.
Well, tell you what, lads. Why don't we? Because obviously, Daz has highlighted. We all go through and we'll go with the majority. So, obviously, who thinks we beat Man United?
Yeah, I do.
Put your hand up if you think we're going to beat Man United.
Can we do a Shah, please?
Yeah, Shah.
I think we get a draw.
So we'll go with Daz. Go with the majority then. So that's obviously the majority.
Four yeses.
So we got green there, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
West Ham away. I think the win.
Yeah, I think we win.
I think we win as well.
So it's 4-1. Chris, stop pondering. You're out.
I know, yeah, it doesn't really matter. If we beat Man United, we beat West Ham. Yeah, if we beat Man United, we beat West Ham. Yeah.
Right.
Brentford away, I think is a draw.
Yeah, I'll go with a draw.
I'll say draw.
I say win. Draw. Okay, we're putting that as draw. I'd put that in a different colour.
Just leave it as yellow.
Yeah, otherwise it'll be here all night as my laptop's going to run out.
Sorry, Mark. Villa away.
As we said, we think it could be a tough one. A draw.
I think that's a loss for me.
A loss, Jesus.
I could be wrong. I hope I am wrong, lads. I just have a bad
feel. We can't lose to Villa.
I just have
Oh.
I hope I'm wrong.
Villa watching have a field day.
Yeah.
You won't see mine. He's already blocked me, dickhead.
Yeah. I know you don't like it, boys, but it sounds like we're going for a loss there.
Well, then put down as a loss. Then
should we go loss?
We're going with the majority. Yeah.
Oh.
It will improve. It will improve.
Spurs.
I think we beat Spurs.
I think we beat Spurs.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Hold on, we put a loss for Villa. No, guys.
We've gone a lot. We're trying to be realistic, people. Yeah.
After the point, Pete, I was at least trying to get something.
Yeah, you can't go out of all.
I hope I'm wrong. I just have a bad feeling about that game.
Oh no.
Right, okay, Everton away, win.
We definitely go to Everton win.
You're at that game, Chris. Hopefully.
Hopefully so, mate. Yeah, we got it.
Pitch invasion if it's not going our way. Okay.
Yeah. You may go strap yourself to a post.
So we all happy with win for Everton? Are we happy with that?
We sure are.
Yeah.
A win for Everton or win against Everton?
Sorry, a win against Everton. I mean, a win against Everton. Yeah. No.
No, he's just rehearsing because he'll be in the home section.
Yeah.
Definitely a win for Southampton. The game we're all at. We have to win that.
You know what?
That's the banker. It's got to be.
Has to be our banker.
That's the reason why we chose the game.
Kinda, yeah.
And it was the cheapest.
Yeah. Okay.
God,
Arsenal home win.
I'm saying defeat. Just to make it a bit more realistic.
I'm going to say a point.
I'll say draw.
Draw. I'll go draw as well. Actually, draw.
So we go yellow. We go yellow for Arsenal. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Leeds win.
Draw.
Away from home. So I'm
We
saying
should win that game, but they have just a knack of just turning up.
Yeah, I'm going draw.
Yeah, draw.
3 draws. Was yellow.
Sorry, Daz, for ruling you out there, mate.
It's okay. I know I'll be right at the end of the day.
Go green. We're going green. Gotta go green, Leicester.
Home win.
Please, just for my sake, guys, just put it green. Just please put it green.
James Madison, just to get another taste of St James's.
Oh, we need to get a chant once we're 2 or 3-0 up about Madison coming to sign for Newcastle.
Yeah.
That's what we need to have.
Brighton, wherever that game lands, we don't know what date it's going to land on. I say we win. I think Brighton will have played loads of games. They should have some injuries, some bookings. So look, something has to go our way.
Do you know what? I'm
Win.
going to agree with you, Daz. I think we're going to win.
They've got a semi-final as well. So,
And depending on when it's rearranged, if it's at the end, they could have a final potentially.
yeah. And so they're going to have other fixtures midweek that they're going to have to try and catch up with, as well as our game. So
Yeah.
back end of the season could be very, very busy for them. Win.
And I'm going to say,
go the win. Go the win. Well, that was the majority anyway. So,
and I'm going to say Chelsea lost because we're going to be on the piss because we're going to be in the top 4.
We have 4 points clear last game of the season. Yeah.
I'm going to say point.
I'm going to say a point as well. I'm going to say draw.
Chelsea.
Oh, yeah.
do you know what? I'm going to be. I said no more than I'll go for the loss.
I think
That's
so.
the majority.
So was draw?
Draw was
the
the majority. Mate.
I'm going for a
Draw
draw.
was the majority.
Was it all right?
Hey, we were panicking. We're only losing 1.
So we fucking should have known, but it can't be fucking Villa.
Yeah.
Change it to Brentford. Change it to
It wasn't.
Brentford. Brentford lost to the Villa loss.
But Pete, don't forget, is that with or without Tony?
Oh,
Yeah.
honestly, in my mind, I can't. We cannot lose to Villa. Not away from home. It makes it even worse. I've got a ticket, so I'm going. So we need to win. We need to win.
Look, lads, just to highlight. Look, we've went in our predictions. The majority of predictions there: 7 wins and 4 draws. There's 25 points.
Yeah,
that's easy.
72.
That's easy Champions League. That's potentially
Still-
third, lads.
All
Yeah,
in our hands, which is don't worry about the other 4. Focus on what we got to do.
Yeah.
I
I'll take that.
Very good.
Right. Back to the questions. Get rid of this thing again.
No more from Michael Palmer.
I like that. I like that, Kev T. Imagine starting, we'd have us finish at mid-table.
The championship.
I like that. Bobby. Yeah, I like this, Bobby. You guys are underrating Arsenal seriously. Is there a better player in the league at the moment than Odegaard? Is there a better winger than Saka? So let's answer those last
Good
two.
point.
Is there a better winger than Odegaard? A better winger than Saka at the moment, and is there a better player in the league than Odegaard?
I think there's no better midfielder currently in the Premier League than Odegaard.
I'd love to see him and Bruno.
Player of the
Okay.
season for me.
Mm.
I think he's been.
No, I don't think. I think Haaland's going to get player this season just due to his stats, how many goals he's going to score. So I wouldn't say he's the better player in the league at the moment. Better midfielder, yes.
No, he'll get the headlines and he'll get the plaudits because of the goals and everything else. But
Yeah,
I think Odegaard has been the difference for Arsenal this season. I think he's just made them absolutely tick and runs that midfield. He's been outstanding for me.
Saka the best winger?
No, not for me.
No one see Elliot Anderson now?
Nobody see Murphy, no.
Yeah, yeah. Best winger? No, it's a good question.
would you? Right, I was going to say, would you say Rashford?
No.
Because he doesn't play in the middle, does he? He plays either.
Yeah, he plays left
You're
wing.
Makes
right.
a mean sandwich though.
You're right. Saka's been more consistent this season. In terms of, he doesn't always score assists, but he puts in a hell of a performance. Even against us, he get burned at times, a torrid time. Yeah, he was good. He deserves some plaudits, but I agree with you, Rich. I think Haaland gets Player of the Year.
Yeah,
you can't score that many goals at this stage of the season and not be considered for Player of the Year. The guy's a machine. He's a machine.
Yeah, must give old Rory Chelsea a shout out who said Haaland wouldn't come and undermine the established. You dickhead.
But Pete, we've had a couple of questions in for you here, mate. So David Cook, first of all, says, is tonight a warm-up for the Tobes and Lawless Onslaught, Pete? And then somebody else asked, just tuned in, it was Ryan D, just tuned in. Pete, are you going to be on the 12-man show later tonight?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I forgot about it, but yeah, it's on. It's already started now. I mentioned to Dan earlier that it was on, so I will jump on. But I did say to Dan, I'll be doing this first, so this is the priority always.
Oh, no, good man, good
Cool.
man. I've got 2 more questions. So, again, I think we're going to be doing a separate show on this, Mike, but I'll throw it out to the boys anyway. What's your thoughts that we may need to go for 2 forwards in the summer? This is if Wilson wants first team football instead of being a squad player. Now, I know we're going to do, a couple of shows around this, so we won't go into too much detail. So, a very quick question for all you boys. 1, do you think Wilson will stay? And 2, how many strikers do we sign in the summer?
I think Wilson stays because he'll not go to any other European football playing teams next year, whereas he will be when the squad player for Newcastle, and he would get game time in Europe, which he's never had before. So I still see a bit of Newcastle, and I still think we'll get 2 forwards. I still think we need another someone through the middle, because obviously we'll look at Isak and Wilson's injury record this year. Hopefully, Isak's through that now, and I still believe we'll bring another winger in. So that's 2 forwards.
I think we'll bring that Wilson stays mainly because he's doing up the house, as you can see. He's talking to Russ, but and I think we'll bring in 2 forwards as well. I think Wilson will kind of maybe graduate towards the coaching kind of side of things as well. In time with Newcastle, maybe Richie might follow suit as well, because I can't see anyhow letting him go. He loves him, but yeah.
I think Wilson will refuse to leave. And I've mentioned it on the show, Daz, I've said it to you. If we get European football, this will be the first time he's ever played European football in his career. There is no way that he's letting that get in the way of him moving to another club. He will sacrifice the money. He will sacrifice first team football in order to play European football, even if it's for 1 season, because we will get even if it's the early part of the season, he will play in some of the early rounds, and we'll play some football over the course of the season. So I think he stays. And I don't think we sign another striker, but I do believe we'll sign another. I think we'll sign a left or right winger, not both. We'll sign one of whichever one's best available. Diaby would be the perfect signing. They've just mentioned that they're looking maybe to deal around 60 million. If that's the case, now if you look at where they are in the league now, I think Richie, you talked about earlier on the season, they're in the relegation zone.
You know what? Xabi Alonso was really to beat Bayern Munich at the weekend.
They're only a few points off Europe. So the one thing that we don't want is for them to get European football, because that will make it 10 times harder for us to play.
I think if they do get European football, Pete, what we've got to do is make sure we're in a better competition than what they are.
I think they can almost justify a bigger price. He could maybe go for 55 million, rising to 65 if they're not in European football. But if they get European football, and it'll be a big part of why they get it, it then negotiates a different price. We might be paying a full-on 60 million with a view to bigger money on the back of that. And that
I think his capture is funded, though.
Sorry?
I think Diaby's capture is funded, because I think it's part funded by the sale of ASM.
Yeah.
I think ASM goes in the summer.
Yeah. I think if we're going to get someone like him in, ASM will leave. But with Diaby, my only worry is that he's a Parisian, and if PSG come in for him, he's going back there. That's my only thing. He never really wanted to. I don't think they will, though. He left because he wanted to play regular football. If PSG come in for him, and bearing in mind they've got Luis Campos, who likes to buy young players and develop young players that predominantly are either French-speaking or based in France. He's a perfect signer for PSG, and they can afford it. That would be my only kicker that would ruin that potential deal. But Diaby has to be second choice on the list, because my first choice.
Yeah, my answer on the forwards there were kind of the front three, and I expect one of them to be a young player as well for development.
Mm.
But yep.
I just to add my 2 pennies worth in, and Mark, I don't know if you said, but I think if Wilson goes, we bring in 2 forwards. If Wilson stays, I think we bring in 1 forward, and when I say forward, I mean striker. I think we'll bring in a striker and a winger who can play either and possibly through the middle. That's what I think we'll do, because we're going to be fighting on 4 fronts potentially next season. Alex Hayes said it when he was on the show, when he came on to Loaded. And it's a great point. We need depth, strength and depth, and I think I think we'll sign. If Wilson stays, we'll sign a striker. Probably, like Daz has just said, like a youngster coming through, high potential. Not saying someone to rival Isaac at this present moment. No, probably not. But certainly someone who has got prospects and someone who can quite easily come in if needed. But mainly just to get minutes and just build. Mark, did you answer this question, mate? Sorry.
I kind of agree with Pete. I don't think we're bringing a forward. I think we're more likely to bring in a winger that can possibly play in 2 areas. I think definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, I would be shocked if we do not go all in for Madison. I think it's plainly clear to me that the club want him. Eddie Howe wants him. Bringing that winger in, I think we probably still need, that left back position sorted out. So I think for me, it'll be probably, I wouldn't be too surprised to see another goalkeeper come in. So for me, I think you'll see another goalkeeper. I think you'll see left back. I think you'll see a winger, probably left-sided. And I think I think we'll see the likes of a Madison come in. So I think there'll be 4 or 5, but I think they won't necessarily be names you'd think of, probably maybe apart from Madison. And then I think ASM will depart.
On that subject, Mark, do you think we bring in? Do you think we go for Declan Rice if we get Champions League football?
No.
Yes.
I don't think we go for
Thumbs up for me.
Rice.
Who said that?
That was me.
You said that without anything moving.
Watch,
I actually thought my pub was haunted there for a moment. Yes.
Watch this, Pete. I can do more than that. I can even talk while I'm drinking. See that?
It's a party trick. I love it.
And then very last question. Oh, sorry, Pete. What are you saying, mate?
Do you think Martin Dubravka stays?
No.
Club this season?
No.
I've got a feeling he does.
He stays. No,
You've got to remember that Gillespie's out of contract as well, I believe.
Yeah, I think they bring in. I think they bring in a younger goalkeeper.
So we get rid of 3 goalkeepers.
I think Karius will stay. I think they bring in a younger one, and I think they get rid of Gillespie and Dubravka.
I think Karius stays as well.
A chunk of the financing to meet financial fair play, and I know people won't want to hear it, but I think ASM gets sold. I think he goes back abroad. I don't think he goes in the Premier League anywhere. I think he goes back to France or somewhere.
I think he'll go to Italy.
Possibly, yeah. I just don't think. I've actually been watching it and watching kind of a lot of comments, looking at kind of him coming on and off, and I just don't think. I don't think he's a Howe kind of player. And look, it's probably another show. I actually thought maybe this is something we could do towards the back end of the season. A pros and cons for ASM. I know, obviously, me and Pete I know it would just be a me and Pete show. But I just don't see him there next season. I think, again, I just think we sell him on and we get the resale value, and he might go on and prove himself somewhere else. But I just don't think he fits that team.
Interesting. One word answer though, lads. Do you think that ASM went off because he had an issue with his hamstring on Friday night, or do you think he was brought off because he was having a shit game?
I can't answer that in one word. The one thing I'll say is that
consistency.
It would explain a lot if it was an injury. Because the way he played on Friday, I couldn't fathom why he wasn't playing in a more progressive, attacking way. Yeah, he had 4 or 5 moments. Me and Daz talked about it in the review. He had 4 or 5 moments in that first half where he could have attacked the defender with pace, and he chose to play the easy pass. And you think to yourself, what are you doing? It's not like he didn't have the ball. Against Bournemouth, I argued that he didn't have the ball, and he didn't. He had the ball against Forest and did nothing with it. Now, the only thing, not that it annoys me, but he plays a part in the goal. And he comes onto the right, he plays a part, he moves him into the forward line. Isak plays off the left, which is why he scores. And it's a great move by Howe. But does Howe make that movement because ASM is it's easier managed in there because of his injury? I have no idea. But walking out that ground for the first time, I thought to myself, I don't see ASM here next season. That's the first time I've genuinely thought, in my opinion, I don't believe he stays at Newcastle, and I don't think it will be his decision. I think if it's up to him, he wants to stay at Newcastle. Yeah. I think he's happy at Newcastle.
I think Howe moves him on.
Playing for Newcastle, and I think he wants to prove himself. But I think the club will force his hand because they, like we've just talked about, will want to invest more money in a player that's a sure thing. Someone that's going to get goals and assists every season, double figures. Someone that's going to take us on to the next level. I said to you guys last summer, and we argued about it more, and I put my points across, you put your points across, but the one thing we agreed was, if he didn't perform this season, he's gone.
He had to go. Yeah,
and he's not performed for injuries and for other reasons. He's not performed. And we need to move on as a club. We've let Shelby go, which was a surprise. And other players will go between now and the beginning of next season. Players that we might not expect to go. There's talk about Fabian Shaw moving on. Who knows? But we will let players go because we will see the forward-thinking movement of the club. ASM might well be a casualty in that. He might well be or show some resistance if we get European football, but we'll see.
Richie, I'll answer your question. Injury.
Yeah, I'll say injury. I think injury. Sorry, I've got to go over one way. I think injury because of the swap with Isak, and I think that's why. Although some people are saying that maybe it's that was to do with the little spat that Howe and Graham Jones had, that it had something to do with Saint Maximin, and it had something to do with the fact that he was like saying get him off kind of thing. Who knows? But I think that swap in position would indicate that he was protecting him, and that's why I think he may have a niggle.
I agree. And to be fair, it doesn't always happen, but a lot of people, Alan Thompson and a few others, are put in the chat about that they'd noticed it as well. I noticed that he just wasn't doing anything. Like I couldn't give him. Most people would have probably given him a 2 in our review show for his performance because he didn't do anything. But it was the fact that it looked like there was something that was stopping him being able to perform. So the hamstring injury makes sense, but he just didn't do anything. He didn't.
But if it is though, knowing Howe and his team, if ASM is injured, why is he playing?
There you go.
Gordon and Miggy.
But
I don't know. I'm sorry, but
did they know that? Did they know that? And with the Miggy situation and the Gordon situation, did they say to him? And we don't know this. Did they say to him, "Give us 45 minutes, and then we'll bring Elliot Anderson on"?
But the thing is, that you could turn down and see it.
Elliot Anderson in starting against Forest in such a big game. Did they want to bring him on as a sub where there's less pressure on him? I don't know.
Yeah, no,
what were you going to say, Richie? Sorry.
Just I think you look at the fact that the thing is with hamstring issues, you can make them worse by trying to get 45 minutes out of it. So for me, if there was a risk full stop, he should have played full stop, whether he's got an issue with it. And to be fair, Anderson had a fantastic game. Yes, it was only a half. We don't know what it would have been like if he had a full 90. We don't know that. It's ifs, buts, maybes. When it comes around to the next game against Man United, there's a good chance we won't see ASM again because Joe Linton's back. And it wouldn't surprise me if you see Joe Linton and Joe Willock interchange on that left-hand side, which was a fantastic Wilton performance already this season. So we probably need to get to the bottom of it. But for me personally, I honestly believe he was pulled. I really do.
I think so as well.
I saw something in the game that you guys might not have seen. And it wasn't actually his fault, but it told me a lot about the situation, which is why I thought it was about his performance more than anything else. There was something just before half time where they're attacking on our left-hand side. And ASM's tracked back, but he's tracked back to a different man. So it should have been whoever's playing on the left. I think it was Willock that should have come across, and he did, to be fair, but he came across late, and they've worked the ball, and we've defended it really well, and it's gone out for a throw-in or a corner, and you've got Trippier that's on the right-hand side that's going absolutely mad at Maxi. I think it goes out for a corner because Maxi comes over to the right-hand side to do his defensive responsibility. And Trippier's going mad, and Max is going like, "What? I was there," and he was going, "No." He's literally pointing, he's saying, "That's your man. You should be marking him." And he's going absolutely mad at him, and Max is going like, "What?" And on the basis of play, as you see it unfold, Maxi wasn't in the wrong, but I think Trippier was frustrated by how he was performing. He wasn't performing in the way that the team needed him to perform and expected him to perform. And bearing in mind, we were 1-0 down at that point. So there was a lot of frustration there. And I think that's the first time I've seen other players be genuinely frustrated with ASM on the pitch. Now, that particular time, it wasn't his fault because of the way it played. It was actually, I think, Willock that wasn't going back and tracking his man properly. But ASM got the brunt of it because he didn't track back as quickly as he should have. He got to his man eventually and marked the man he should have, but it just all kind of fell apart. And I was like, that's really, really interesting. Really interesting is that, are they kind of frustrated with him? And no, Stephen Ingram, it's not a Maxi bashing, not at all. We are talking about a genuine situation with Alice at Maximin. I'm not a Maxi basher at all. These guys will testify to that. But it's an interesting point that there is a genuine situation with ASM, and we don't know which way it's going to go. It could be a load of rubbish. It could be that Maxi stays this next season and plays European football with us. It could be that he gets sold on. It's all hearsay at the moment, but we're looking at what's going on right now.
Exactly.
We have a right to be able to.
It's all opinion.
We agree that he's going to move, or whether we agree that he's going to stay. It doesn't matter. We're okay to have an opinion on this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay.
Chris, any more questions, or are we rounded off for the night?
There was only one more question, and it's not really a question, to be honest. It was more just to ask you lads. David R. Would like us to repeat the show after those 3 away games. Hopefully you lads don't have us down as 8th at that point. Is that something we could do, maybe?
Yeah, of course we can. We said we do it after 4 games. So let's look at how the fixtures play out, and we will schedule this again.
It is after those 3 away games, because we've got Man United.
Part 2. Before the Spurs game would be our target. Yeah, it'd be a nice time to look at it. Right, cool. Let's give a shout out to sponsors as we wrap up. Shout out to the Radiator Shed and Russ there as we put Chris and Pete in jail. They love it. Brandy and Blaze. Right, and there we are with the various different color radiators. Hope you're well, Russ, as well. And yeah, if you're looking to renovate your house, or you want to change your radiators, or know someone that's building a house, go check that out and go to the Radiator Shed and get sorted. As much like as we said, as Colin Wilson has done. Right. Also, a shout out to H2O Bathroom Design Co., the Northeast largest supplier of Velcro and bathroomware. Team Valley Gateshead, over 20 years established, ran by the family. Get down to the showroom on 11th Avenue, Team Valley Estate in Gateshead. So give Pete a shower and look at the bathrooms. Again, the fabulous bathrooms that are available. Go check those out at H2O Bathroom Design Co. So that is it for the sponsors. Coming up, Richie, have we a show tomorrow?
We do, mate. Yeah. It's all done and dusted already.
All ready to go.
Yeah, all ready to go.
Tell us what it's about.
Well, I'm hoping it's going to be another fully loaded tomorrow night as well. Everyone says they're going to be about. So we are going to have a bit more of a light-hearted sort of thing. And one of the things that we did during our, loaded days at the very, very start was we used to have the quiz every week. And we're actually going to have an NUFC quiz tomorrow night. It's going to be a loaded mastermind tomorrow night. So be sure to join us for that. There's some fantastic questions in there. All I'll say is anybody who's actually watching, I know Jules loves a quiz, so there's no excuse for her going to a different quiz tomorrow night. So, come and join us if that's the sort of thing. It's light-hearted and stuff like that. Just see who's the brains. I'll be Quizmaster. I'll be Magnuson tomorrow night. So let's see who the brain box of the other four is.
Here's an early hint: it won't be Chris.
Yeah, I was going to say it won't be me.
Me and you will be at the bottom, pal. Don't worry, we'll share the glory.
But if you're talking about anything Christmas related, it definitely isn't going to be me.
This has the hallmarks of a great show.
What was it? Mistletoe. Mistletoe. That was it.
And the reindeer.
Chris,
we're not getting into it.
You don't need to get into that specific. Let's just move on from that.
Richie, have that one ready. Right, and that is tomorrow night, Wednesday night, and on Thursday. Pete, tell us what's happening Thursday.
We are in for Battleground Europe, number 3, and we've got all our favourites from various different clubs back to talk all things European football and assess where we are from the supporters of those particular clubs. So we've got lots to talk about. We're going to get all the opinions from those that are in the race, as we talked about, the likes of Chelsea and Villa are not too far away, Brighton, West Ham, of course. We have to put West Ham in there because they're still in Europe. So Lawless is hanging on by a thread, and we'll talk about that on Thursday. But yeah, lots to talk about, and it's going to be a cracker. It's going to be a good one.
Cool. Nice one. Look, thanks to everyone for sticking with us for just over the 2 hours. Apologies for the internet mess up at the start, but I hope you enjoyed our look at the European run-in. As Pete says, we kind of a bit of a European flavor to this week with it being International Week. But lads, thanks for joining us. Great to see everyone all together. I'm going to play out again with the Isaac. Night, everyone. See you later.
Nope.